I wish it didn't surprise me, but I feel like this is something we're dealing with on a daily basis in the treasury and payment space. And it makes me really nervous that these are the numbers because it's almost guaranteed. If you're a company, you're going to get targeted. And looking at that last result, 38% targeted more than 10 times, that is really something we have to take into account in companies and really realize this is a genuine problem. I also think what we're seeing is that the fraudulent activity is now a really good economic venture for the fraudsters. It wouldn't be so successful if it wasn't paying well and it wasn't easy to perpetrate. And I think that's part of the issue, is that we're now seeing this as a genuine threat against companies, and we have to take it seriously. It's very scary, and it's bottom line impact here to companies. I also think that the high figures is due to the evolving fraud tactics that are out there. And, I think AI and generative AI is a fantastic use case in companies, particularly in treasury. I think there is so much benefit to it, but with something good, there's always something more sinister on the other side. And that, I believe, is what explains these more repetitive and higher numbers of figures that are being perpetrated against companies. It's evolving fraud tactics that our teams don't necessarily understand or know how to combat, or know even how to realize it's coming at them in companies. And then it also is what we've been seeing in years past is it's a lack of controls, it's a lack of training, it's a lack of resources in companies, and genuinely, I think, a lack of understanding that this is a problem we all have to manage in our companies. In my research with other treasurers, in my own just dealing with fraud attempts, you do see that the fraud attempts are a lot more sophisticated. The verbiage and the way they're coming to you at companies are not like we saw in the past, where the spelling was incorrect or the grammar wasn't professional or business related. Definitely seeing a change in the way fraudsters are coming at us. And not only do I see it, to be honest, in my companies and treasury working, but also in my personal life, where I see attempts on, trying to get me to log into my bank or any other company that I've signed up to be a customer of. And we're seeing just a repetition of this very smart and sophisticated technology. And it's all linked to cybercrime. There is obviously still check fraud in the US happening, but it's not to the same degree and dollar value as cybercrime. And it's concerning because it's happening so much faster than I think we even realized. And we know that, we have Gen AI that's open and free to pretty much everyone to use with ChatGPT. And it's been around for maybe 3 or 4 years only to the general public. And it's amazing how quickly this fraud has come to us using that new technology that's making it so much easier for criminals to get us and to get us to believe that they are who they say they are. We all think that we're good at spotting fraud and it's never going to happen to us, particularly if you work in the treasury or payment space. We feel like this is our area that we should be good at, and we're not going to be subject to these type of attacks, which is probably why respondents surveyed say that they feel confident. However, the data is not showing that based on your survey. And I would say that it's very much down to these, evolving tactics that we feel good about being able to spot check fraud and, BEC scams. They've been around for a long time, or badly spelled or grammatically incorrect emails that come to us. We know they're there. We're pretty confident we can get ahead of those. But the newer ones that are coming at us, I would say we should not be so confident, and we should really take a step back and realize that it's an arms race here, really, between the fraudsters and technology that's available for us in corporates. we're always needing to be ahead. We need to be vigilant, and we need to be very suspicious about out of the ordinary or changes for payment requests that come at us, because I don't think we have the right to be that confident based on the numbers and the dollar values of fraud that is happening. That is a scary number, and those dollar values are huge, and they're definitely, bottom line impact here. And again, it's my belief that this is AI and cyber fraud, because it makes it so much easier to move large amounts of money quickly in relation to what we knew in the past of check schemes and in-person fraud schemes. Those were smaller dollar values and took a longer time to happen. But with cybercrime and the advent of real-time payments, it is so amazing how quickly money can change hands and is gone for good. And that, I think, is why we're seeing such large dollar values, because it is easy to happen. And I love technology. I love that we have real-time payments and speed of payments that we do. But at the same time, it comes with a lot of potential risk and large dollar values that can be moved out of our companies. Oh, absolutely. And particularly with public companies. I mean, it does pertain to all companies, obviously, but public companies have a lot more scrutiny, and with their quarterly calls and requirements to report these incidents to investors. Reputation damage is almost sometimes, dollar values that you can't quantify. It's really long term, and it's very hard once you've damaged your reputation with the customer or an investor. It's very hard to build that back up and to start again, to bring customers back to you. And it's a worry, because it's happening so much that I think we are getting fatigued with it as well. Almost every month you're hearing about some company that you have your information with gets infiltrated, and your personal information may or may not be out there. And it just makes it difficult to really understand, are companies doing enough to protect their customers and their investors, or is it just easy enough to have a dollar value set aside to pay damages and to pay legal fees if these breaches happen? And it comes down to really just ensuring the bottom line is not the only important aspect to a company. It's about how your customers relate to you, what they feel about you as a corporation, and how they are respected with the information that they provide to you. And companies need to be concerned not only with the dollar value, but also with the way they're coming across and their reputation to their customers. It's interesting, these numbers, how quickly these new channels have gained success in fraud. I mean, it honestly is a little higher than I would have expected. I know it's out there. I've seen it in use, but I didn't realize that it was actually so successful in corporates. And it goes back to what you said earlier. These new channels are just harder for companies because we don't have the training, we don't have the technology, we're not ahead of the fraudsters. So it's harder for us to really spot them using, our normal routines or controls that we have, because we don't even know they're out there. We don't know they're so convincing and just coming to us in a different manner. And it's very interesting for us in the payment space how we have to just, I would say we have to stop multitasking, and we have to stop doing things so quickly, because even with the advent of real-time payments and automation, there is still the stop and check and think process that we need to use to ensure that these new schemes are not catching us by surprise every time. It's definitely, I think there's a lower barrier to entry now with these AI and other tools, because you don't need to have, great grammar or business speaking or business crafted emails, because a tool is going to do it for you. So there are a lot easier ways for criminals to infiltrate our companies and our personal lives. It's not good enough. These numbers are showing us after years that the same thing keeps happening, that I feel it's only when companies have a major breach that is financially or reputationally damaging to them do they really realize that this is something they have to pay attention to right from the foundation of the vendor master file and when we're setting up these contracts. It is very interesting to me that we are still relying on manual processes because we have technology. I mean, you can't fight technology, fraud schemes without technology. We're human. We're going to be missing things. We're going to make mistakes. And a double check procedure, while that's better than nothing at all, it's not good enough. And these numbers are not going to change in our favor unless we keep up with technology and we use the tools that are available to fight the fraud that we're seeing. And companies are, employees are getting weary. We're weary of all the just different things that are coming at us all the time. And it's very hard to keep just focused on not only your actual job that you have to do, but all the training and the understanding of all the other events that are coming at us, all the different types of fraud processes. And it really takes a actual concerted effort to ensure that this is being, that's management are aware of it and they're understanding that there is a budget and a resource required to ensure we're looking at everything properly. It's going to keep happening if we don't do the right thing. And it's like I said earlier, I think it's the multitasking has to go away. The urgency of everything has to be understood, that unless we've done all our checks and procedures and controls, there's always that risk of fraud being successful. Fraud is everybody's problem. It is not just the payment team or the CEO or the audit teams. It is everybody's responsibility in the company to understand how they can help the company, how they can ensure that they're doing their best to know if something doesn't seem right and to report something if it doesn't seem right as well. It cannot just be left up to the payments team because there are multiple steps up to when a wire actually goes out of company where things can go wrong and fraud can be perpetrated. And if you have the idea that it's just the finance or the payments team's problem, then we're going to be spending a lot of time on payments because there are so many steps to check right from the beginning, from when you set up the contracts and set up the vendor master file. And that's a timely process. And I just think if everybody pays attention to this, they will see the signs and they'll realize it happens and it comes to them in their personal lives as well. It's not just a corporate function that we have to be aware of. It is most definitely everyone needs to be aware of it, and there needs to be top-down instruction and approach to fraud prevention at companies. If your C-suite are not vested in it, then you can understand why we're going to see an increase in fraud, because it doesn't seem like a big deal in companies. We need the right training, we need the right resources, and we need the right responsibility and accountability in our teams to say something doesn't look right, I'm not making this payment, and you don't get into trouble for not doing something immediately because you are concerned that it could be fraud. And it just needs to be something the whole company is vested in. I think we need to start immediately trying to make our department's fraud's worst nightmare. We have to be those people that are constantly letting people know and educating and training our teams and our broader teams that these are things that are coming at us and we cannot have lax controls over them. It's definitely a evolving subjects in companies. And if we don't put automation in place, or we don't put technology in place, we're going to reap the consequences afterwards. And I would say that, we're all doing a lot in our departments and we have limited resources, but this is one area that we should not compromise on. We've seen the numbers. I mean, the very first slide you showed is that, we're almost guaranteed as a company to face a fraud attempt and a successful fraud attempt in our companies. And that makes me very scared in the job and responsibilities that I have in money movements in a company. And therefore, this should always be the number one item in your company. And we just need to be aware of it. And we need to realize that, gone are the old schemes that we feel we were really good at spotting. And the new ones, we just got to pay more attention to, and we got to keep learning and, keep being trained. We use our banks and our service providers to come in and train us on a quarterly basis. And we invite the whole company. Anyone can come in and listen from the experts. Basically, they train us, they give us good knowledge for our personal life and our company protection. And it goes again to what I said earlier. This is for everyone in the company to be aware of and to take seriously. And let's make 2025 the year that fraudsters fail and we don't.